Hello, and welcome to Real Menopause Talk. My guest today is Kerry Hales. Now, once upon a time, for a small period of my life when I was handsomely paid, pre-kids, I would spend a small fortune on beautiful underwear. And because it's so beautiful, I still have much of it. I don't wear it, I have bigger boobs and a bigger arse, but I just feel it's too beautiful to get rid of. Kerry would have a great deal to say about that. In this episode, we discuss coming off HRT, how you don't want to mess with a woman in her 50s, and the universality of your knicker drawer. Before we continue, I have a very exciting announcement to make. Real Menopause Talk is proud to announce Cozy Earth as its very first sponsor. Temperature-regulated bed linen with a 100-night sleep test, which means you can try it for 100 nights. And if you don't love it, send it back for a full refund. I will try many things for a good night's sleep, and this is one I absolutely recommend. Try it for yourself. Go to cozyearth.com and use the code menopause for a massive 35% discount. Wonderful to meet you. I have heard a tiny bit about you from the wonderful Kim Rain, and obviously I've garnered bits and pieces from Instagram, so I can't wait to hear all about your story and your experience and what you do as well. Mm-hmm. So, Kerry, would you like to start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
I'm nearly 53 and I have been coaching for 20 years. I'm a transformational life coach. I live in Whitstable. I moved here about 18 years ago and I live here with my two boys, my two cats and two dogs. I sea swim. I used to be quite adventurous, but now these seem to be quite sedate things, although people think that sea swimming is quite adventurous.
I do.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? It's something that seems quite normal to me now. I kind of, jump in and out of the sea. I lost my glasses a couple of days ago, though. That wasn't fun. The sea one I lost. Yeah, so last year I wrote a book called Life Lessons from Your Knicker Drawer, which was a bestseller, and I was on Radio 5 Live and different wonderful things that PR books can get you. And yeah, my business, or when I'm working with clients, is generally I declutter people's heads. It's about removing doubts, not necessarily through any technique, but conversations and just working out or getting to the piece of clarity that people need to move forward in their life, but also to get them in present time. Lots of people live in the past and the future, and hence the great analogy in Life Lessons from Your Knicker Drawer. It's such a beautiful way to start conversations with people that are very intimate, so it cuts straight through to what is really important for women especially, and it also lends itself to conversations about how do you start your day and your routines, which I also love to do because I like a lot of my work is very practical. I'm very woo, but very practical.
That all sounds amazing.
Oh,
I love the title, Life Lessons.
It took me a long time.
How did you come up with it?
Well, I had it kind of lent itself to it, really. I had the experience 7 years ago now. My mum had died, and I was working with a coach about how I wanted to feel about my body. I was a bit disconnected with how my body was post babies and different things. And as I was getting older, because I was 45 at the time, so she said, how do you want to feel? So I was like, how I want to feel. And so I thought, right, okay, I'm going to just go upstairs and stand in front of the mirror and look at myself and see, what's there. So I stood there and I had a pair of my mum's knickers on, who had just died. And she died of a horrible cancer that made her skin itchy. So she couldn't wear things. So she, and also when your mum's dying, or if you ever go through that misfortune that I did, she gave me her makeup, she gave me everything. So she would buy stuff and buy clothes and different things, and they would itch. So she'd just give them to me, and I said, of course. And so then you take something home and it goes in your drawer and it ends up on your arse. So I was standing there in a pair of 70-year-old knickers, a bra that 2 out of the 3 clasps were broken. And I just thought, well, this isn't sexy, lean and strong. Where am I going to start? So I thought I'll start in my knicker drawer. And because I work with when I work with people, I'm always using the analogy of their life. So I'll always talk in their language. Like if you're a barrister, I'll talk about judging, or or anything along those lines. So I'm always looking for that connection to your life and to sort of talk in your narrative. But the knicker drawer is a universal truth for women, which I didn't understand at that point. Because I just looked at my knicker drawer and I thought anything in there that doesn't make me feel how I want to feel is going to go. So I looked in and I thought, right, there was just so many different patterns and habits that I talk through with clients. The period knickers, like old shabby knickers that don't make you feel good, even though it's something very special and spiritual that happens to every woman throughout their life. It's generally applied when you're feeling like shit and you wear your worst pair of knickers at the time. Mm-hmm. It might be comfortable, but they're not very great. And then there's knickers that make you, suck you in, hold you up, lift you up, cut you in half. Or old pair, knickers that you used to wear before you had children, sexy underwear that you can't fit anymore because your boobs are too big or your belly's too, round. So all of those that are there that don't celebrate who you are, they kind of are trying to put you into something that you're not, make you into something that you're not. So there's all of those. And then there's all the ones that you can't fit in that you hope you're going to fit in, or you might have brand new ones that are kind of for a special day or a special event, or I've bought those when I go away for the weekend with my partner, and that never happen, So and I looked and I just thought, well, if I clear up everything, then there's only 3 pairs left. And I put everything in a Tesco's carry bag, and I took them downstairs, and I thought, I'm not even going to fold it up. I'm going to empty them in the bin, because then I know I won't be able to take anything back. So I went over to Tesco's and I bought underwear that fitted me, that was comfortable, that was the size that I am. So I wasn't kind of trying to fit into something that I was no longer was. And even if I wanted to be smaller than I was, I am this size. It was a matter of kind of acceptance. So it's a long story, but the life lessons are in there. And so when I have conversations, so I came downstairs and I spoke to my partner at the time, we were still together, and he said, I just had a vision of you sitting on Good Morning Britain with your book in your hand. And I was like, what are you talking about? Me crazy. Because he's an author, do you know what I mean? He's a writer and everything else. I was like, don't be ridiculous. And but I kept talking about it, and then I'd do talking and I'd have conversations, and every time I had a conversation with a woman, and anybody who's listened to this will probably go to your own knicker drawer and have a look and see how reflective it is of your life, because I promise you it will be. I could tell you a lot about your life if you showed me your knicker drawer, which sounds a bit weird. But it's very true.
Yeah, I'm envisaging mine now and thinking, there are stories in there. You're absolutely right. Yeah. There's a lot of history. And
there's a lot of history. And is it supposed to be a history book, your knicker drawer? You really, I mean, it's where you start your day. So especially sort of, looking at routines and how do you create a day that you love, no matter where you are in your journey of life. Right? If you're putting on a pair of knickers and the label is that'll do, then that's going to have an effect and an impact on the rest of your day. Whereas if you go in there and it's all, everything's nice, everything's sort of something that fits. I'm not saying that anything has to be all sexy or anything like contrary to that. It's like there's so many different types of underwear that you can have, all different shapes, sizes, patterns, colours, mix and matched anyhow you want it. But does it make you feel good? And then when you start to do that, you start to look at other parts of your life. So it's like, well, where else am I not feeling this?
That's so fascinating. And I expect resonates even more strongly post-lockdown, when, certainly for myself, I was the laziest I think I've ever been in terms of getting dressed or presentation of how I looked and felt. I just didn't care. And even coming out of lockdown, I care so much less than I used to, which on the one hand I think is good, but on the other hand could do with a bit of oomph.
Yeah, I think I love lockdown because I'm a coach in terms of making everybody stop. Like, my job is to stop your world, check in. Is it still relevant? If it isn't, what do we need to let go of? What do I need to reconnect you with? what's the next steps? And so lockdown really forced people's hand in that. It's like, stop. And, for a lot of us. So when we do that, and we sort of went to comfort, didn't we? It's like, oh, everyone wants snugly, wearing their pajamas, but sort of below the belt kind of thing, because you can't see. And then to look and go, right, okay, now we're starting to move back up into sort of a pace again. What do you want to create now? Is it still working for you? Now you know that how much you enjoyed that easier pace, that simpler style, that that you don't want to rush around, or some of us do. Was like, actually, I do. I've got things to do, and I didn't realize until they were taken away from me.
Where are you in terms of menopause?
I so wish I was over it. I've not had a period since December. So in terms of this recording, that's about 5-6 months. So before then, it was sort of patchy for a year. So that's where I'm in terms of periods and stopping.
How have your symptoms been through the build-up to what may or may not be the last months?
Please.
I have my fingers crossed.
Please let it be. It's just like all my friends are like, oh, I got to 11 months. It's like, oh, man. I think when you look back on symptoms, that's sort of like, because my partner and I, so we split up 2 years ago, just before lockdown.
Oh, gosh.
And so lots of things happened around that time. So I've got teenage boys. I run my own business. And so there were lots of stresses that were at the same time for me to kind of pull it apart. But before then, I do remember that year before when he'd say, still, and I'd say, oh, I'm so tired. In the afternoon, I'm so tired. And he'd be like, oh, you're always saying you're tired. Like, because that's just, like I'm busy. Like I would do, 100-day burpee challenges. I've done triathlons. I've run marathons. Like I have a lot of energy and I'm a force. So for me to be tired I didn't like it. I'd walk up the stairs and I thought, oh God. And so that was uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, because it was such an anathema to me to be like taken the energy out of my life. Over the last 2 years, so hot sweats at night, not during the day, thankfully. That was the thing that knocked me over to go to the doctors, because not getting good sleep was just making me really kind of miserable. And I just thought, I can deal with symptoms, but not getting good sleep to me, because I'm a good sleeper and I've always been a good sleeper. So like, just, if you wanted to like just knock everything out of my life, it would be take away my sleep. So the sleep was really hard, but I'd wake up in the morning and my feet, just like walk into the toilet and I'd be aching like a little old lady. Even now, sometimes I can get up and ache and think, oh God, just my bones would ache. It just, until we just get going, just get moving again, and then I'd be okay. But just energy, the lack of energy was just really hard and really low times. And I've never suffered from depression, thankfully. But really low periods, suicidal thoughts, just I've never kind of planned anything or anything like that, but just like, what's the fucking point? Just what's the point? This is just the worst. And and when's it ever going to end? And just that, get on with it. And then, like anything, and I think the hardest part for me is that the erraticness of things as well, because I work with minds all the time, letting thoughts go, how you feel about things. So it's the, when you have your normal periods, you can kind of like, the world's against me. Oh my God, all my friends hate me. This is just the worst day ever. And about 11 o'clock, you go, oh shit, I'm premenstrual. Right. And you understand, it's like, oh, okay. Tomorrow's a different day, it's fine, I'll get on with it, it's like, it's just a day, it's fine. But you don't have that with menopause. You just don't know when it's going to shift, when it's going to happen. Are you going to get a period? Are you not going to get a period? Is the period going to knock you off your feet? Are you just going to be, like my friend said to me, like 2 days ago, she said, I got up, she said, and I was just flooded everywhere. She said it was just awful. And I went, yeah, I know that feeling. And that's the hardest thing. I mean, like, it's wonderful, you know, now the conversation and the narrative is happening around like this, and, you know, you're doing this great podcast and just getting information out for people to have conversations with it, just to say, you know, it's okay and you can talk about these things. So, yeah. So I went to the doctor because I probably take about 12 good vitamins a day, but I just couldn't deal with it not sleeping. So I started HRT probably about 9 months ago, I think now. And so some of the symptoms have got better. My friend said, oh, I don't think you realise how much better they've been. And I was like, yeah, I think I do. Like the aches, even just talking through it with you, the aches, and my feet aren't there. But recently I'd not really noticed the difference. And so now I've, funnily enough, picked up a book, New Natural Alternatives to HRT by Marilyn Glenville. And it's a really good book, actually. I really enjoyed it. I picked it up the other day. And because I'm thinking, right, you know, I want to come off HRT because I've put on probably 2 to 3 stone, I think. And I can't say it's all associated with the menopause or it's all associated with HRT, but since the HRT, I must admit, I do eat more and I feel more fluid retention, which is not nice. You know, I want to go on my sup board and it's uncomfortable, you know, just like I want to sort of, when you've got fluid, it's just like, oh. And I'm not a small girl. Like I was, you know, happily a size 14, but now I'm a like 16, 18, and that's uncomfortable when you're trying to, you know what I mean? You kind of reassess sort of, like, I love who I am, but I look at myself in the mirror and I see my mother and I'm like, I'm not, not so keen on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a period of transformation. I kind of, yeah.
So if the HRT may or may not have helped or has helped some things a little bit, but not fully, going down the natural route, is that more nutrition based or is there more to it than that?
So I started taking HRT and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to take HRT and that'll tick that box, right? And then I'm going to go on Slimming World and I will lose the weight, tick that box. And then, you know, you go on to these sort of things and I know what to do, right? And I work with people with you know, so it's like, what's really going on? And there's lots of things that are going on in my life in terms of why I'm eating. You know, like when my boys are with their dad, I'll be quite lonely and I'll fill that void with food. So I'll do that. But the eating, I just thought, hold on a minute, like I know. So this book has been really interesting. Sort of like some people are like sort of for the menopausal symptoms can actually be low blood sugar and how am I eating and doing different things. So I am looking, so okay, I know all those things. And then all of those things over lockdown, kind of like my healthy immunity, I've got, you know, I've had juicer for years. I've got a, you know, a NutriBullet that I use. So I can make smoothies, I can do, you know, and used to eat very healthily, right? And then all of a sudden, lots of things happen and you just don't eat so well.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay, if I do all those things and start to, you know, really make a conscious, healthy plan for myself and take, you know, all the supplements that I do take, which I'm happy to take, and then slowly come off HRT to sort of do that naturally that way. Because I'm now also in a stronger position to, you know, I mean, that separation isn't ever easy, but I'm through that kind of that initial turmoil of grief and the period of all things like that. So I feel better about that part of my life. You know, lots of things are a little bit more stable. So for me to be able to go, right, okay, we're going to do this. We are going to do this. And I've never been keen on taking drugs anyway. And I know that that's not always, you know, an option for everybody to not do that. But interestingly, you read in this book so that, you know, lots of people take HRT and you know, there's a high percentage of people come off after 9 months. And I was like, wow, that's probably about time that I'm doing the same. Like, okay, I've done this. I feel like I can do it. I feel like I've got a handle on it now. I'm not sort of like going, I can't deal with it. Okay. You know, you start to talk to people and it's like, right, okay, you can deal with this. You can, you know, plan your meals better, have things that you know are going to ease the symptoms. So I feel like I'm strong enough and it's time to do something different.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. It's very interesting that you do say about the weight gain and the fluid retention. I've taken photographs of myself because I started HRT in August and came off it in February, cold turkey, because I couldn't take it anymore. And, you know, a certain amount of weight gain, and particularly over Christmas, it's like, okay, I was fine. Normally it just sort of shuffles off when I've stopped eating Christmas cake. And it didn't. And then I puffed up, and it's the discomfort and the pain. I couldn't wear my wedding rings. My knees swelled so badly it hurt to walk my daughter to school or walk the dog. And I looked like I'd been punched, to the point where people would come up to me and go, "Yeah, okay." Yeah, so February, what are we now? March, April-ish. It's just settled. I'm so anxious that it's going to come back. But my GP, who I went to see end of last week, said, actually, maybe I just haven't got the brand right. And maybe the progesterone is causing the fluid retention. So I'm so torn as to what to do.
Well, it's like the pill, isn't it? Like when you were younger, it's just like, you know, you take the pill and then, you know, you kind of like, I know, like my friends, it's like, oh no, the pill doesn't put you on weight gain. It's just like, yeah, it did. It did when we were younger. It did. And I can't see how this can't have the same impact. I mean, it does say in the side things that it does. And I'm like, it does. I know there are lots of symptoms around me eating more. I understand. I take responsibility for that. I'm not just going, oh, it's HRT that I've put on 2 3 stone. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you know, it's just like, now I'm ready to look at what were the reasons why I took it. And are there other things now that I'm ready to take responsibility for? I walk with Nordic walking poles, you know, mostly every day, you know, and I walk my dogs. So I'm doing those things. I've got weights. It's just like getting the energy to do those things. It's not one thing. That's the thing, isn't it? It's not like, and I think when you do kind of go, well, I'm going to take HRT, it's just like, I kind of almost took my foot off the pedal with the rest of the things. It's like, I've ticked that box now. My menopause, I'm going to take HRT. And, you know, and I do remember going back to the doctor going, you know, because initially when I took them, my boobs, I felt like I was pregnant. It was awful. And I remember seeing this doctor. She was really sure. Well, HRT is not the panacea for menopause, you know. And I thought, oh, how rude. And but actually, I come back and I think about it. I thought, yeah, but you didn't really do yourself any justice with all the other things. Right? You know what I mean? Like, sort of all the other things I know that are what I was doing before. And then it's like, oh, because I'm doing that, I don't need to do that anymore. It's like, no, I need to do that more. It's going to be interesting. But in this book, it just said about going cold turkey. And I was like, oh, should I just go cold turkey? And it's just to not do that. It's just to kind of wean yourself off. But
I don't think it's a sensible way to do it. When women come to you, does menopause or perimenopause play any role, do you think, in when they feel they need support to transform or go through a transformation, or they need something that is lacking in their life?
I do think it's such a transformational time for women, very much into sort of women coming into their power, because I think a lot of the transition is like letting go of, you know, we're not making babies anymore. It's a different part of our life, a different time of our life. And actually, lots of things drop away. You know, you don't give a fuck about things so much as you did. And not that I did before, but now even less so. It's just like, you know, that my, you know, it's not very pink at the moment, but it's generally pink. And lots of people come up to me sort of about my hair, and across the board of older women and younger women, across the board come to me as it's like, oh, I love your hair. And it's not necessarily that they want pink hair. It's just they want the courage to have pink hair. They want to be the girl that says, fuck it, I'm going to have pink hair if I want pink hair. And that's what they come to me for. You know, it is about sometimes getting to that stage, I think all along your life, but especially as a coach, like when I was 32 and I was coaching, it's a very different conversation to what I'm having now, because now I've been through separation, grief, children, miscarriage, you know, all of the, you know, the history and the wisdom that you have in those years. You do have a lot of empathy that you didn't have before because you've been through it. So when people do come at that age, it is very much of like, oh my God, I've put everybody else first for far too long. And now they have the sort of like the courage to sort of go, well, sod it. I'm going to, you know, I want to do this. And my job sometimes is not necessarily even to work a solution, because I am very much a solutionist. It's just about holding a space of truth, and that for them to actually speak what they want to say out loud to somebody. And then I can just give them a look, because my face is just one of those kinds of faces you don't get that on a podcast, but it is one of those looks where people just look and I go, and it's like, oh, and I said, well, you've told me now. And then it's like, oh, okay. And it is very much permission giving to themselves, more so than me. As just like, they'll come to me, and like a client said the other day, she said, I need to talk to this because you just remove all doubts. Sometimes people just need to know what's their yes. So yeah, they do, because I do think women of this age, we're just so powerful and really fucking scary to a lot of people. I think, you don't want to mess with a woman who's in her 50s and her 60s. You just don't, because she's got nothing to lose. It's like, really? Who would I take on? A 25-year-old, 30-year-old? It's like, really? Like, even myself, when I look back, and I think I was scary back then, but now, like, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to say to me that I haven't already heard? What are you going to think you can say to me that I was like, no, I know myself well enough now to know that this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going. And who are you to say any different? Like, I love you. I wish you on your way. It's not done from a space of meanness. It's just from a space of strength. And so if I can do that for other women, then I just, yeah, absolutely. And also, I think there's the pressure of, like, people start dying.
Yeah.
We can't get away from that. And, parents start to die, and then all of a sudden you're in a different position, and you start to think, oh my God, you get in touch with your own mortality, and it's like, well, the scales of tips, like, if you think about it, it's a very rare person that lives to 100. So we're on the downward slide too. Like, get after it. Like, what are you waiting for? Well, the waiting and the messing around and the exploring of, like, all of, like, oh, what if I learn how? What is that? No, now's the time. You want it? Let's do it. So I like the urgency that it gives as well. It's more of a punchy kind of, yes, come on, you can do it.
I love that. Encouraging each other. I've found the menopause community, for want of a better expression, but those of us going through it at whatever stage we are, once we begin to connect, it's very powerful and very, very supportive, which is just wonderful. Kind of lighting the fire sort of under each other with the doubt, just going, no, come on, you've got this. It's all good. It's a good way to move forward.
It really is. I think you do join a club, and the same if, like, at any stage of any, when you go through grief and then you talk to somebody who's been through grief, it's like, oh, you know me. Yeah. Oh God, you can feel, you know me. And that empathy is, like, such a powerful thing, I think, to be able to sort of support each other. It's just like, it. It's like, and you know how hard it can be.
It is deeply valuable.
Much more so than any other time, because the time when you sort of transition into being postmenopausal is you're very much about yourself. You understand yourself more than you've ever done before. Like, for any other time, it's very outside in influenced, and the more of your life has been on the outside of you. I think the harder probably the transition to be go through menopause, because you've got to understand yourself. If you've never really looked at your nutrition and different things and how your body works and what it needs, now's the time when it's just like, you're going back to school. You really are learning and empowering yourself. And then once you can do that, you're like, oh yeah, I've got this.
Have you got any particularly wonderful success stories? I'm sure you have many success stories, but any that you are able to share with us?
So many different stories are so subtle. It's never prescriptive, right? Which is why I love coaching. Generally, people come with an idea of what they want, and they're generally stressed. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and then they come up with something random, like, I'm going to go teach English in Spain. Okay, all right. So and then you start to pull it apart, and it's always about the form or the function. It's just like, because it's not necessarily the form that they want to do, like sort of the learning English. It's just the function of going and doing something different. I need to go do something different. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm clear about that. And then when you work it out, she doesn't speak Spanish. She's never been to Barcelona. never lived there, not lived abroad, not any of those different things to understand what it is that's just, but you just like, I just need to go and do something different. You know, you work through the story of what it is that somebody wants. And then actually now she's running a wood recycling place and has set up a huge business that is much more aligned with herself. She lives by the beach because that's where she wanted to live. So you want to live a sunshine life. You want to go live by the beach. Okay, you know, we can do that. You want more freedom. You want to be able to have your own business. Okay, we can do that. What people come to me with is that they have a story of what they think they want. And my job generally is to pull it apart and kind of like take away, oh, that's it. That's a definite yes. Okay, I know you wanted that, right? That's a yes pile. And then we just clear out, we go through all the rest of it. Like, you know, and my program's called Decluttered. It's like, and it's not necessarily about having a tidy house. It's about tidying up your head. It's like, right, okay, where are all the ifs and buts and, oh, no, that's definitely a no. And energetically, you'll know because you kind of talk to somebody. And how I always describe it to people is that when you're talking about stuff, if there's no passion about it, you know, people can talk to me about worm farms, and if they're passionate about them, I'm in. When I'm working with somebody, I'll end up have to get off the call and almost like shake off their excitement about it, because then I'm like, I should go do that because that sounds amazing, right? I'm like, I've changed my life thousands of times with clients because it's like, my God, it must be amazing because it was, you know, this, and I'm like, okay, you know, go for a walk, get yourself back into your zone, because I have to get in. Like, I literally have to get in with you, like get in and let's see what's, you know, right? Okay, let's go around these tunnels of your mind. Oh, what's that? Get that out. What's that? Get that out. Because it's not working for who you are now, and that's really what my process is. And sometimes people come to me for 6 months, and we go through that process of like clearing it all out, and they know what they want, and off they go. And that's, you know, it's like, thanks very much, I'm off. And other clients stay around for years, not because they're not fixed in inverted commas, because they like that space. Like, where do you go to someone to hold you accountable to say, right, okay, what's working, what's not working? What do you want to create? There's so many stories. It can be really small, subtle things, like having the confidence to leave a relationship that you're not happy about, having the clarity to be able to leave a job that you don't want to be in, but without just going, well, fuck it, and just going, they're all a bunch of arseholes, I'm just going to leave. It's like, well, yeah, but if you don't work through what it is that you really want, you'll just create the same. Take a breath. What's working in your life at the moment? What do you love? What's definitely staying? And then we'll work about what needs to change and how. And there are small things. It doesn't have to be, you know, like I've given you some examples of massive things, but even like I said, even changing your underwear and changing that has knock-on effects. When you start to do things that you think is about that, and then you start other things start getting easier to move in other areas of your life. For those who are curious about it, I've got a free 5-day declutter. So it just emails you, but I do have a 30-day program, which is again is email based. So you just get every day, you get me in your inbox going, right, today I'd like you to look at this, but I'd also like you to journal or write down about what you're noticing. So it's a kind of a two-pronged thing. It's a physical and mental program that kind of takes you through that journey. Physical clutter is just a manifestation of what's going on in your head.
Clearing things out clears headspace as well. Talk to my daughter about that quite a lot. Tidy desk, tidy mind, a little bit anyway.
That's true.
Any pearls of wisdom or recommendations for how to transition through menopause as successfully and as clutter-free as possible?
I think just stay in the moment with things more than anything. I think you've got to learn to love your body, learn to love you, this is an inside out thing. It's not an outside in. You've got to really look and think, what's going to work for me? It's how do you do it for you? It's like, what's in your life at that time? Take off your judgy pants. This is not time for those at all.
Kerry, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Kerry. Take care.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Kerry has genuinely inspired me to overhaul all of my underwear, not just my knicker drawer. And as a shameless plug, if there are any lingerie companies out there who wish to give me a hand, please do get in touch. You can find Kerry at Kerry_Hales on Instagram, and you can follow us on the podcast apps. Please click subscribe, and remember you can sign up to the newsletter on the website as well. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.